What's up guys, it's Chris from Pursuit of Possibility. Welcome to my channel. It's committed to shaping a world with less mental suffering and more people experiencing the joy of living fully and living powerfully. If you guys are on board with that mission, subscribe on and let's get growing. We've been talking about these subtle negative thought patterns that often go unrecognized called cognitive distortions. They're costly when we don't recognize them because they fuel anxiety, depression, and self-sabotage. Today we're going to talk about a cognitive distortion that we're all guilty of from time to time. It's a form of jumping to conclusions called mind reading. Today we're going to talk about what mind reading actually is, a few examples, and ultimately focus on the solution. Are you guys ready to dive in? Mind reading is based on the inaccurate belief that we actually know what people are thinking. We might have some idea of what they're thinking, but what are we, Professor Xavier? Wait, are you Professor Xavier? Specifically, mind reading refers to the negative interpretation about a scenario that we jump to. For example, you see a stranger with a nasty look on their face and you immediately assume, oh my gosh, they're judging me, they don't like me. What is it, my shirt? It's like weird, isn't it? They really don't like my shirt.
Like that.
How's it going, man?
Is there like a side door?
You can go through there. Okay. Yeah, if you go through there and then stay left, you'll go right out. Yeah. You got it. We're so convinced of our negative thinking and that we know what the other person is thinking that we don't even bother to check out if our thinking's actually accurate. We don't even bother to talk to that person and ask them. Instead, we project our own insecurities onto the scenario. But what if that person's scowling and has a nasty look just because they got a text message with bad news or they were thinking about something negative that happened earlier in their day? It probably had nothing to do with you. And that's the cost of mind reading. We jump to a conclusion that triggers a negative thought spiral when maybe our conclusion wasn't even right in the first place and we had no reason to think negatively about the situation. Imagine this, you're giving a presentation at work and someone's nodding off in the front and you immediately assume, wow, my presentation's so boring. But in reality, that person went out and partied their you-know-what off last night, and they're paying the price this morning. It had nothing to do with you. Or you pass a friend on the street and they don't notice you, but you jump to the conclusion that, oh, they don't like me anymore. The friendship's over. When in reality, maybe they were dreaming up some idea and had their head in the clouds, or they were on their way to an appointment that they were late for. Had nothing to do with you. Or your spouse had a tough conversation at work, they got negative feedback, and they're not wanting to talk to you that evening. And you take it personally and you say, oh my gosh, what did I do? Are they angry at me? No, it had nothing to do with you. There's an amazing book you need to check out. It's called The 4 Agreements, and one of those key agreements is to never take anything personally. So guys, can we all agree to not take things so personally anymore? I think it'd save us a lot of trouble. We may respond to these assumed negative reactions with
loud noises,
withdrawal or counterattack in a relationship, and then we actually create a self-fulfilling prophecy with a negative situation with that person and a negative experience in the relationship when there was no reason to have a negative experience in the first place. We've all heard that expression, when we assume, we make a you-know-what out of you and me. And that's what happens here. So guys, what's the solution to mind reading? So the solution to mind reading is, one, to have a little bit of humility and consider that we might not actually be Professor Xavier. We can't actually read someone's mind. And number 2, have the courage to find out the truth. Ask your spouse directly, what's going on? Are you angry at me? That's what it feels like, but what's really going on? And they'll tell you, and you'll realize, oh my gosh, it wasn't about me. If it is about you, then you can deal with it effectively and resolve the issue. Is your idea that the person doesn't really like you testable? How could you test it out? Do you think mind reading is really helping you? And what's the cost of if your mind reading is actually wrong? Are you willing to pay that price? Do you think there's a possibility that you're projecting your own insecurities and limiting beliefs onto the scenario? And maybe you could do some work on understanding what those limiting beliefs are? And maybe you can put in the work to change those limiting beliefs? If your thought that the person doesn't like you was actually true, what would that mean about the beliefs you have about yourself? Why would that matter to you? Is it because you think deep down you're unlovable? It's actually very human, but in understanding that, you could work on those beliefs and make a change. How could you become the person who's so self-invested and loves yourself so much that it's actually okay to not be liked by other people? And finally, act against your thoughts. What if you intentionally did something positive for the person that you think doesn't like you? Guys, I hope this video was helpful and that you have a better understanding of mind reading and its negative impact on our thinking. And I hope you have a sense of some solutions and strategies to try out to reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression and self-sabotage that comes from mind reading. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being a part of the Pursuit of Possibility community. We're just getting started and I'm excited for where it's growing. Cheers to your happiness and fulfillment. I love you guys and I'll talk to you next week.